Euro 2020 is going to be a disaster. And while this opinion may be unpopular, the available data suggests that it's the truth. So if you want to hear why the competition is almost destined to be a massive mess, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and listen until the end of the video for the inside scoop. First things first, how exactly is Euro 2020 going to work? Well, the plan is groundbreaking in that it completely ignores the bubble model. Instead, each of the 11 host countries will be free to choose whatever regulations they want. And let's just say that some of them have made some pretty, bad decisions. And to give you a better idea of just how messy things can probably get, I'll be dividing the first part of this video into a country-by-country rundown. The most high-risk country is Romania. That's because as long as you're from one of the 185 countries that are not considered to be high risk by its government, you can enter Romania without quarantining so long as you show them a negative COVID-19 test that is less than 72 hours old. As you might expect, this isn't too smart for one main reason. COVID-19 doesn't usually show up on a test right away. That's because, on average, symptoms begin to come about 5 to 6 days after someone is infected. And according to the World Health Organization, people typically only test positive about 1 to 3 days before showing symptoms. What this means is that it could take up to 5 days for someone who contracted COVID-19 to test positive, which is much longer than the 3-day window created by Romania's organizers. If that wasn't bad enough, Romania plans to have 100% seating capacity within its stadiums, which means no social distancing will be practiced at all. When combined with its lax quarantine restrictions, the chance of someone spreading the virus in the stadium is very likely. Unfortunately, Romania isn't the only country to be implementing a laissez-faire approach. That's because Azerbaijan and Russia both plan to have 50% capacity in their stadiums. And just like Romania, the situation in both countries isn't looking too hot. For example, Azerbaijan has decided to allow citizens from Turkey, Switzerland, the UK, and any quarter-finalist nations to enter the country. While this may not sound too bad, these travelers will not have to quarantine if they get a negative COVID-19 test, which brings about the same problems seen in Romania. Russia, on the other hand, is still planning its quarantine measures, but the one major problem that the country faces is that, as of May 21st of 2021, it hasn't exactly flattened the COVID-19 curve. In fact, Russia has consistently been at the 9,000 cases per day mark for the past 2 months, and so it isn't exactly the safest country to be holding massive public events. As of now, the 8 other host countries are still in the planning stages, but what they have all pledged to do is to have in-person spectators. And while the specifics aren't 100% clear, the stadium capacities for each country are likely going to sit at between 22 and 33%, with both domestic and foreign visitors being allowed to attend. So with all of this in mind, I foresee 3 major issues. The first and easily the worst issue is the lack of quarantines. After all, we've known for months that COVID-19 does not appear on tests until at least a few days after someone gets it. Therefore, the decision to completely waive quarantines hasn't been all that bright. The second is the issue surrounding spectators. After all, we've seen through competitions such as the Champions League that if no one is in the stadiums, the chances of transmission, even during an international competition, is super low. However, as soon as you start allowing people from around the world to attend in person, the risk of transmission goes up a lot. And while the players themselves probably have nothing to worry about, the chances of spectators passing the virus to each other and then bringing it back to their home countries is pretty high. To make matters worse, many spectators will likely country hop so that they can see multiple games, and so if they don't have to quarantine, the chance of them passing the virus along to others is quite high. The final major issue is the international aspect. You see, when a competition is only held in 1 or 2 countries, it's easy to monitor the domestic situation and make a coherent COVID-19 safety plan. However, given that there are 11 countries involved, if even one has a massive outbreak, then the entire tournament becomes a huge mess, as new stadiums have to be booked, players and fans have to travel to entirely different countries, and new schedules have to be created. As you might expect, this would be pretty chaotic. Yet given that some of the countries involved have almost no COVID-19 restrictions in place in their stadiums, the chances of this happening are, again, pretty high. So with all of these problems in mind, what is the solution? If you ask me, I think that Euro 2020 has to create a bubble that encompasses one or two countries instead of 11, as this would both make it a lot easier to have consistent safety rules and help prevent country hopping between matches. I also think that international fans could be allowed into stadiums. However, I would argue that this should only happen if they test negative upon arrival in the country and go through some sort of quarantine period. And while I recognize that it is impossible to 100% guarantee the safety of everyone involved, I'd say that quarantining international travelers, not allowing countries to have a 100% capacity stadium, and cutting down the 11 country setup to a more reasonable number isn't too big of an ask. So let us know in the comments down below whether you think Euro 2020 will be a disaster. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications button so that you never miss out on the latest Rooster Report. Until next time.